All right. So welcome everyone to Keeping It Real. I believe this is my fourth program, and I'm happy to have Eugene Royzengurt here with us today from Sandy, Utah. Hi, Eugene. Nice to have you here. And just a little bit about myself. I'm Benita Lehman. I'm a RDT CDT dental technician for a very long time, and I've been the VITA representative for a little over 3 years now. And one of the things why I put together this show called Keeping It Real, and I always try to keep it real when I'm out there, of course, talking as a dental technician first and then a VITA representative second. And I always find innovation every time I go out in the, on a day-to-day basis. I go into a dental lab or a denturist clinic or a doctor's office, and there's just such creativity and invention going on, and especially now in the world of digital. And I know Eugene, I was so impressed with what Eugene is doing, because he was in Edmonton this January before everything went crazy. You were my last workshop, actually, Eugene.
You were my last course. Well,
Awesome.
Before Chicago, yeah.
Before Chicago, sure.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that I wanted to put this Keeping It Real show together is, number one, to keep everybody connected in the community. I think that's just so important, especially this time. It's a way that we can still have conversations, we can still share, and I can have really valuable guests come on the show and really talk about what they're doing and how they're being creative in such a difficult time. So I'm really happy to have Eugene with us today, and welcome everyone else for joining us, and to let you know that you are all muted when you come on board. The program will be about 45 minutes, and there'll be a chance to have some live Q&A at the end. We can all unmute ourselves and ask Eugene questions if we like, but you are encouraged to type in the chat box, which is provided for you, and I'll monitor that, and if Eugene can answer some of the questions, we'll be able to address them right away. And at about noon, we should be wrapping this up and everybody can continue their day. So again, welcome everyone for coming. And Eugene, I'd like to just have you introduce yourself. And we're talking today about incorporating digital into your dental lab or denturist office, because you are also a denturist. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking and sharing today. And then, yeah, let's get on and let's hear about how you incorporate digital.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on here. I'm very honored. My name is Eugene Royzengurt, and I'm a dental technician / denturist from Sandy, Utah, like Benita said. And I've been practicing. I've had my lab since about 2007, but I've been in dentistry since about 1996. I started as a dental assistant, went through that, thought I wanted to be a dentist, decided to go into a lab field instead, and then kind of accumulated the whole thing and became a denturist. And now I'm actually back in school. I'm getting my bachelor's in denturism right now. So I'm going through all these things. And I was kind of a bit apprehensive when it came to digital, to be honest with you, like most hands-on denture techs are, especially the ones that have been doing it for a while. They kind of, denture techs are a very different breed. I don't want to put everybody in the same boat here, but from the guys that I've met, we're a little bit slow to change. We like things the way we like them, and we kind of go through that road, and veering off to different paths. It's a bit problematic. I know it is for me, for sure.
If you think about dentures, really the only thing that changed in dentures was ivo-capping. Like really, at the end of the day, all you have is new teeth, maybe new acrylic, maybe microwaving, but really ivo-cap was the only thing that changed that industry.
And I wasn't even willing to accept that part. I'm still brass flasking it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. There's lots of people that are, yeah.
Yeah. So when the whole digital thing came onto the playing field, I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna. This is not for me. That's not something I'm going to do. And you have to be honest with yourself and everybody. And in the very beginning, it was very, very raw. I mean, we're still having issues with some things, but it's a lot better than it was even, I don't know, 3 years ago.
Right.
The materials are getting better, the software is getting better, and there's some better things out on the market. And what I didn't like in the beginning is that I think it was I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to name any companies, but the first people that came out, it was like, oh, you don't need your technician anymore. Get out of the Stone Age.
Mhm.
All you do is you press a button, it sends it to us, or you press it. I don't remember what it was, but it's like you don't have to worry about the incompetency of the dental technician or whatever it was.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, that is not the right thing to say.
No.
So that has kind of left a sour taste in my mouth personally from the beginning. And for the many techs, it did the same thing.
Yeah.
And then later people realize, oh, you know what? It's not as easy as pressing a button, getting it done, because it requires a knowledgeable person, even to operate the software, even in order to do things correctly, you need a tech. And preferably you need a tech that has good analog skills, because visualizing things properly on a monitor, it's not as easy as it may seem. You go from 3D to 2D, but still have to think in 3D. I mean, I'm still to the point where I'm looking at my screen and rotating my dentures with the mouth, and I'm going like this, trying to look behind the screen to catch the things. Happens all the time. You should see me sit at these things. But so let me tell you a bit about my journey. So that happened, and then I see people. I have a lot of friends in this field, and I've been very blessed, and I have a lot of knowledgeable friends. And one of the people that I hang out with and I talk to is as a denturist out of Canada, Mark Samuel Chiana. Mark is well known in the community. Yeah, a very good friend of mine. We do talk all the time. Very, very knowledgeable guy, and just a wonderful person altogether. And Mark's been doing digital, I think, probably since like day one. I don't know. That guy's into everything.
Early adopter, yeah.
Yeah. So I looked at what he was doing, and he was showing me things. And Mark is very like straightforward. He's not going to be like, oh, it's all rainbows and unicorns. He's like, no, dude, you got to do this, this, and this to get to this point. So that got me interested in it. And the first thing I did was I bought a scanner. And a lot of people do that actually first. They don't buy software. They don't buy, fancy schmancy printers or something like this. They buy a scanner because you want something to capture the data first. What you do with that data down the line is up to you. Do you want to save it? Do you want to outsource it? Do you want to do something with it? By being able to collect the data, I think it's the most important step. And that it was for me. Because this way, even if you don't do anything digital from the standpoint of designing or fabricating, at least you're able to capture a model. So down the line, when something happens, the model gets lost or something else, you're able to retrieve that data. I'll give you a good example. Literally a week ago, we fabricated a case, not fully digital. I do some steps digital, some steps analog. It depends on the protocols. It was a full denture, and I had been able to scan the models and fabricate the base plates for bite trims digitally. But everything else was done analog still for this particular patient. And the case was processed, delivered to the clinic, and the case was misplaced. So the case is gone. We don't know where it is. Nobody can find it. In the olden days, I don't know why I even say that. The olden days, back when we had to use the horse and buggy to get to the lab.
That's right.
We would start simply from the beginning. I would go to a Algin impression, go to custom tray, bite rims and everything else. In this particular case, all the digital steps are still there. So I still have the models, I still have the base plates. Yeah, I don't have a digital bite, I don't have a digital setup. But if I did, that would have been that much easier, right?
Right.
So at least we're not starting from scratch. So I'm able to print models, print bases, put some wax rims on there. We'll do another setup, we'll process it. Yeah, we lost some, but we didn't lose it all.
Right.
What I like to do, and because I have different accounts that do different things for different clients, right? What I like to do is at least to get it to a setup stage in digital. And it has been a bit of a challenge for me because I'm an analog technician and I haven't been doing digital things for too long. But if I have the models, if I have the base plates, if I have the bite and a try-in all digitally preserved, that opens up a whole plethora of possibilities. So if I send in a try-in, everything looks great, the bite's good, and I love getting this phone call or getting this RX that says, move midline to the left 2 millimeters. Because, it's nothing, right? It just it takes 2 seconds. Well, in the analog world, it's a real nightmare, right? Because you have to rotate the whole case, and it just sucks. I don't have any other word for it.
No.
At least not the one that I can use on here.
Keep it real, but not that real.
Not that real, right? This is still a PG show.
That's right.
In digital world, it's a bit easier because I can just take and open up that design and literally just take the whole setup and rotate it 2 millimeters.
Right.
And then just print new bases. And the thing that I like with the system that VITA came out with, I'm not saying it's something new, but I'm just saying that because I use VITA teeth and this is what works for me. I like the fact that I have an actual tooth. Okay. So when I send the case for a try-in, I generally don't print monolithic try-ins. What I generally print is I use custom tray material and I'll print the base with sockets. I'll put the teeth in it, attach them with wax, and send it in for a try-in. So if I need to reset, I haven't lost anything.
True.
All I have to do is I rotate things or whatever, and I'll print another base, and I'll just put the teeth back in there.
Yeah, you just pop out the teeth. So those are the Vigo teeth that you're talking
The Vigo teeth, yeah, that's what I'm using. If you're using, let's say, for example, if you're doing a printed tooth, to me, a couple of things I don't like with printed teeth at this point right now. I'm not saying everything is very date related because things can change in a day and an hour. I don't know. Material sciences are moving really quickly. What I'm not liking, but this is my personal opinion that has nothing to do with industry standards. What I'm not liking is the fact the aesthetics are a bit not there for me because it's still, it is monolithic. Let's be honest. Even if you have some newer techniques and stuff, materials in there, it still looks a bit monolithic. And I don't see the wear resistance there. I don't see the wear.
And it's interesting because VITA's whole thought process is we've worked so hard to get our teeth where we want them to be, and they're strong and they have wearability, and we have a historical account of how strong and beautiful our teeth are. We didn't want to compromise it by going into a printed form or anything like that. We wanted to take those carded teeth that we've been so proud of and put it into either the Vigo teeth for printed situations, and you can even use them in some milled situations, and then our bionic DD frame, which is for the AG mill. So both those systems and all the two options for digital teeth with VITA are the actual carded teeth in a digital form. So it was really important for us, and it's nice to hear that that's something that you hold very dear to you in your profession.
Yes, and it opens up a little bit better possibilities for me. And the way I look at it is that I have several different formats I can play with when I have these things. I can print a base and I can bond the Vigo teeth to it. I can mill a base and I can bond the Vigo teeth to it. I can print a base and use the Vigo teeth for a try-in. I can take that try-in, I can flask it, and I can process that case conventionally if I wanted to. Because let's be honest, not every situation is going to be ideal. Let's say, for example, you're doing a case that's got a collapsed vertical dimension, you have exostosis, whatever, and you need to, remember shaving those teeth down to a nail and trying to get that fitted in there, and it's like 2 millimeters thick. Well, if you're printing a base and you got Vigo teeth, if that's a situation, you're going to have holes in there unless you're opening up the bite. But you can only, every situation is different. Some situations you can open up a bite, some situations you can't. So if I'm dealing with a situation where I can't open up a bite and I still want to do a digital workflow, for me, particularly what I would do is I would print a base, put the teeth in there, reduce the teeth, flask process. In my world as a technician and my world as a denturist, the thing that takes the most in the analog is the setup.
That's true.
Setup sticks forever, and setup is usually the dirtiest because you have to work with the wax, and at the same time you have to grind the teeth. Because if I'm just adjusting a denture, I can put in a box, adjust it, it's all nice and clean and pretty. But I can't do that when I'm doing a setup. I have to have either separate stations. So I end up with my whole bench usually ends up being covered either in wax and shavings or all that. So for me, being able to take that and bring it digitally is an important aspect. So I can do that, all these things. And the thing that came up the most during Chicago show, it was one of my primary concerns. Can you do single arch?
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest selling point of other companies. Like, oh, you don't have to worry about single arch. You can just, adjust it in 3-shape or Exocad, and it will mill your teeth for you, or it'll print your teeth for you. But I figured out a way how to do it with Vigo teeth. So,
I am all ears.
So it's actually pretty simple, amazingly enough. All you need is a program called Mesh Mixer. And Mesh Mixer is a free software that a lot of people use, that a lot of people in digital use. And we use them for things like surgical guides, adjustments, and aesthetical adjustments, a bunch of little things, and fixing your models, fixing your scans. It's a wonderful, wonderful software, and it's absolutely free. It's open source. So what I do when you're doing your setup, do your setup ideal. Okay, do your setup ideal, print your base ideal, all good. Then take that file where you have your setup and your posing together and bring it into that software. And what you basically do is you take a piece of, they call it mesh mixing, piece of mesh. So just a block, just a flat block like that. And you incorporate it between those arches, upper and lower arch. And then you do a Boolean difference. You just remove those arches from that block. And what you end up having is holes on both sides. So the hole from the top where the teeth will shine through is pretty much your reduction jig for your occlusion for your opposing arch. So what I do is just print that, pop that on there and go, bip, 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 and you're done. And since every case I do digitally, it still gets mounted in an analog form to an articulator because I need to have a redundancy in place.
Right.
If something goes off, I had issue with my 3-shape, something was up with my library, something was going on, my bites will end up being open. Well, if it's all printed and you're not remounting it, you can't tell until you go to the patient, right?
Yeah.
And even with that being 3 millimeters, you might not even be able to tell. But mounting an analog, you can go, okay, something's happening here. You can either just adjust it or you need to fix it. I ended up, it was an issue with my software. I ended up fixing it, but I'm having some other, it's always a challenge for me. I'm not very computer savvy, that's the problem. But being able to do that solves the problem. So I can have good teeth, I can adjust the bites, I can do single arch. And actually, I think I have a video somewhere on how I make those things. And if I don't, I'm definitely going to make, I'm going to make it. Yeah.
I'd like to see it just, for all intents and purposes, because that's brilliant. That's the first time I've actually heard of this. And you explaining it, it was like brilliant. That reduction jig, you pop that on there and that's where you trim your teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. So it ended up being a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And even if you're dealing with a noised output, let's say, for example, your incisal surfaces and your occlusal surfaces are still okay.
Yeah.
So that jig would still pop on there, no
Sure.
problem. It would be fuzzy over the top, but the areas that actually do matter would still be replicatable. So those are the things that really kind of drive it home for me, the ability just to simplify things. And then duplicating models, things like this. So like I was saying, I kind of veered off the set path. I said, I got a scanner. And then I started talking about all this. I have a hard time staying on topic. Just
good.
Ignore me for a minute. So I got a scanner, and that scanner was sitting in my lab for a year.
Wow.
It was literally like a $12,000 paperweight. Until I got a push. So one of the doctors I work with very closely. I do probably 80% of my work with him. So 80% of my workload is this one client, which is not a good thing, because if I ever end up losing this, I might have to like start practicing. Might have to, because I'm going to be licensed out of Oregon. I might have to move to Oregon and open up my own practice. But I consult a lot, and I handle a lot of cases. But this particular doctor, I actually do a lot of work myself. And he went digital one day. He's like, you know what? I need this in my life. And he went with intraoral scanning. He does his own designs and everything else. And he's like, okay, we got to do this. He's like, I'm pushing you. You better learn this, because I'm moving ahead.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to stay behind, because, we need to do this together. And we started with surgical guides. It was surgical guides and duplicate dentures, because it was the simplest thing for me to do at the time.
So just wanted to say, Eugene, Dylan is a denturist.
Mhm.
And just hearing what you are saying, a good place for a denturist to start would be with that scanner. And Dylan could be doing, you said dentures, like duplicate dentures, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so 3Shape is what I use.
Mhm.
They have like a package system, right? They have like the scanner and everything else. I kind of went a little bit more open than 3Shape, because the scanner I got was a DOF HD scanner, which is not, it's not tied into Exocad. It's not tied into 3Shape. You can actually use it with both. It makes things a little bit more complicated, because you have to scan your models or whatever you're scanning, and then you have to work with your scans, and then you bring them in separately into 3Shape.
Yeah.
When you buy into like a closed system like 3Shapes, if you get their scanner and everything, it makes things a bit more simplified.
Right.
Uh,
And just, I want to talk a little bit about that. There is benefits in both ways. As a dental technician, I always thought, you know what, I want it open. I want to have options available for me. But then you get the complication, because you get a scanner from here, the software from here, and let's say the mill from somewhere else. You actually have to group them together on your own. The beauty of a closed system is, just like you said, you get a 3Shape scanner, you have 3Shape software, it's all nicely together. So it all depends on what you're willing to do to get to where you need to go. So are you willing to spend the time? Are you computer savvy? Are you working with someone that you're working together with? If you're doing this all on your own, maybe a closed system would be better. You'd get up running faster. It's just an easier way to do it. Or you maybe belong to a mentorship group. I know in this digital world for yourself, Eugene, you have a lot of mentors. You said Mark Chan. And when I talk to other customers and other friends in the industry, they have created a bit of a mentorship program for themselves, that they get together like a digital Friday. They have a group chat, and what are you doing this week? What's working? What's not working? So it's really a time that we need to pool together with our friends and our digital friends and get this going. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of a closed system and the benefits of an open system. And you need to decide what's best for you. And then of course you said your 3Shape. So you have 3Shape and Exocad are the basic programs that are out there, and they have, both of them have their benefits. So you need to figure out which one is going to be a good fit for you, depending on where you want to go in the future. And I see Dylan has put in the chat box that that's the plan. He's thinking of going digital, and it sounds like he's going to be starting with a scanner box like you had recommended.
So for me, the reason why I went with an outside system for a scanner, at the time, I didn't know, when I was buying a scanner, I didn't know what I was going to do. Exocad, I didn't know what I was going to do. 3Shape. So I went with this because, well, it was one of the reasons why I went with a scanner, because I could use it on both, and dental wings as well, actually. But the biggest selling point, because at that point, the duplicate denture technique for 3Shape was, they didn't have a separate module for that, and it was kind of a problematic thing to do. And the DOF, part of their software is that you can easily create that duplicate denture with their software. So you scan one side, flip it over, scan another side, and it actually, the software merges the two sides together. Wow. And it was a big thing for me because, I did quite a few duplicate dentures, mostly for impression techniques and everything else. But it was always such a nightmare. You know, you got either the flask or you with alginate or putty or even soap dishes or just straight, all these things. And then you inject the acrylic and then you have to grind it. And it took a long time. Yeah, I charged for it. I didn't do it for free. I get it. But the idea of just scanning it in, cleaning it up and printing it and still making the same amount of money
Mhm.
and then not being covered in acrylic dust from head to toe
Sure.
was very helpful for me. And if you, let me show you here. So this is what my thing was. I started with these. You would take a duplicate, you take a denture, you would duplicate it, you'd print it, and then you would take it in and go, okay, let's take a reline impression, a bite ridge, remount the case, and you could see kind of right here, patient's class 3. Well, we kind of know that the reason these patients a lot of times are class 3 is because you can't see here very well, but posterior occlusion is so severely worn that they end up trying to find an interior something to bite on, so they'll protrude, and you end up with the acquired prognathic bite. So if you just take that and you try to put them, in the same type of occlusion, then you bring them in the posterior occlusion, all of a sudden they start relaxing and deprogramming and they'll start retruding. Next thing you know, 2 weeks later after the denture is fabricated, they're in class 2 and biting like this. Okay, so I think this is a great thing to do because you can do this. And if everything goes well, what I try to do for this patient, you can actually create in Mesh Mixer, that free software, and I've created actually a file that you can attach to the dentures, and you can create your own Gothic arch tracer for this particular things. So you can actually take that duplicate denture, mount that up, create even, because you can't see on this picture, but I've actually set up some interior teeth on this as well. So we can check the aesthetics, the midline and everything. And I've incorporated Gothic arch tracer and printed that. So now we can take this, go through everything else and end up capturing the patient-centric relation. We can change things around if we need midline or anything else as well. And now when I mount the case up, when I do everything, I end up with a much better thing. Well, with this particular patient, I wasn't able to do this particular tracer because what I didn't notice is that the retromolar regions were insufficient on her. So, and if you take a reline impression, you can't take a good reline impression because this is in the way. It's not removable. So I got to thinking, I said, okay, Eugene, we have a problem. We need to have a solution. What can I do to fix this particular problem so I can reline these cases and at the same time do a Gothic arch tracer? So there's 2 things that I came up with. So on this particular patient, what I did was, this is the case that we did. So the upper stays the same. We just, there's no teeth on there anymore. So we just do the tracing plate. But on the lower, I made it 2-part. So I can take and do a reline impression if I have to. And then I can put the top thing on there and do a Gothic arch. This is a different patient, but the idea is this is the same. So I didn't end up having to reline the lower on her because we just had a good retention, but I was still able to fit things back together. Another thing I ended up doing, what if I want to make sure that I take a reline impression and occlusion? If I have a good denture, but it's deficient on the sides and the bite might be off or something like this, if I have a setup already. So this is what I came up with. It's a little video.
Are you talking? Because I can't hear the sound.
Oh, you can hear the sound? Oh, I'm sorry. So what I'm saying is that I had a design flaw in the case, ended up changing it. So I took a denture and I split it in two parts, and you can see the tooth part and you can see the base part, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
connected. Okay, so now I can take a reline impression, and after I take a reline impression in occlusion, right? So make sure everything's positioned correctly. I can take that part with the teeth, take it out, and I can replace that part with a Gothic arch tracer that fits into the same holes and do the centric relation, as you can see right there. So
Very interesting.
so
You know what, that's the thing, I see with digital that you can get really creative and create workflows like that and opportunities that would never be possible in the analog world. Or if it was very unpredictable, it wouldn't have been as perfect. If I would say perfect, like a perfect fit, and you can
perfect
get
fit.
that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So digital just opens up a whole world, and you wouldn't even be able to think about doing that in the analog world. So that's just the beauty of what's possible now. It's actually quite exciting, right?
Yeah, and people often talk like digital dentures. Yeah, it is digital dentures, but it's so much more.
Yeah. Cool. I like that. Yeah. Dylan says cool too. Yeah, he
Yeah.
likes it. Thumbs up.
So and that's where I think that's where it really shines,
Mhm.
and I think it really helps people out because if you look, here's another case. I'm gonna tell you guys about it because apparently there's no sound coming through for some reason.
Okay.
Um,
Well, not for me anyways. So
well, let me see. Maybe I can. Well, I'm just gonna tell you about the
sure.
situation. Um, so this particular case, the patient had a tibia graft, had soft tissue things going on as well, and has a very, very tight, uh, abicularisaurus and everything else is just almost impossible to get a tray in.
Mm.
And we try, and you can't take an impression. So what they did is they did an intraoral scan.
Mhm.
So they were able to get intraoral scanner in there, partially too. So they send me the scans in. That's where it also, like, this is where it comes into clinical things. Because if you have patients with severely loose teeth, let me just pause this for a second. When you have a patient with very compromised dentition and they want to do an immediate, they're like, no, I can't go without my teeth, even though they look like this. They're like, I'm not doing it. Like, I want an immediate denture. Well, the second you put that alginate in there, I don't know what you're going to be using. The second you put it in there, you're going to be taking an impression and doing an extraction at the same time.
True. Yeah.
So the only thing that actually works and works fairly well is an intraoral scan. So for this particular patient, they did an intraoral scan for the upper and the lower, but the lower was very deficient because of the tightness. They couldn't even get a good scan on him. And plus, getting scans can be somewhat difficult if you don't know what you're doing. There's certain techniques, and I think Esther and Carson out of BC, they're like, to me, they're like as good as it gets to figure that thing out. So if you guys have ever any questions about intraoral scans, talk to those two amazing ladies.
Well, just to say, Luke LaRock Walker was on my show a couple weeks ago, and he has both. He has a Medit scanner and also a box scanner, and he utilizes both. And he talked a lot about it on the show. And if anybody's interested, I can send you the link. Just let me know.
Oh, I'd love to listen to that. I think Luke is amazing personally.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
good too. Yeah, he's an early adopter like yourself, and it was quite interesting to see what he was doing. So yeah, I'll send you the link, Eugene, and Dylan, if you want that too, just let me know. But yeah, go ahead and let's finish the case.
So the scan was still deficient, and that's where where utilizing your analog skills and your technical skills really comes into play, because some companies to say, you know what, anybody can do this. Is just press a button and go for it. No, my friends. It takes a skilled, I'm not saying that I'm skilled, but I'm saying it's a skilled person to do things like this. And so when you have a deficiency, because every situation is different, and it comes in, you start putting your technician cap on, you go, okay, what can I do to make this right? So I took that scan, I fixed it in Mesh Mixer as much as I could, fixed the holes up, and I printed that model. Once I printed the model, I took some putty, some silicone putty or clay dough, whatever, and I built up the deficiencies on the printed model. And I rescanned that model in with the understanding that, yeah, the custom tray that's fabricated is going to be not a perfect fit, obviously, will need to be adjusted, but it's much better than starting with a deficient area, because reducing things chairside is a lot easier than trying to add things back in. But that still left me with an issue. Patient has a very, very restricted opening, and getting things in is problematic. So this is what I did. So this is already the in black, the model is printed from that has been already fixed and rescanned and everything else. So I designed the custom tray in 3 shape, as is, just a base plate with 4 pegs. Bless you.
Thank you.
And then I brought that file into Mesh Mixer. So these are the 2 main programs we utilize. I brought that file into Mesh Mixer. I split the tray down the middle, and then I took a piece of mesh, like you see here, and I put it over the pegs, and I did the Boolean subtraction. So now that handle, or that piece of mesh, has 4 holes in it. So if you take that off, as you can see right here, now my tray comes apart, okay? And it's a very precise fit. I would never be able to get this done by hand. I had to adjust those holes by hand a little bit because of the discrepancies in printing, but it fits together like a puzzle.
Wow.
So now what we're able to do is we can take impression material and load up each side of the tray individually, and then squeeze some intraorally, and then place one side in, as you can see right there, and you place the other side in, and then connect them together with that handle. And now you have a full arch impression.
Wow, very creative.
And if you, when you need to take it out, if the opening allows you to take it out in one piece, go ahead. If it doesn't, you take the handle off, you fold it. If you can't fold it completely and get it out, take a scissors and cut the impression material and take it out in 2 pieces. But then you're able to reassemble everything, box it up,
Sure.
and either print a model, or I usually pour things up first and then I scan them, because I'm still kind of in that stage of my life. So that allows you to do things that I would never be able to have results like this by hand.
Yeah, very cool. So Eugene, just wanted to say we have about, I'm just trying to get the time here. So we have about 7 minutes left. So
Okay.
5 minutes. So just want to maybe just do an over. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we?
Yeah, let me show you a little bit, 2 more things.
Sure.
So this is the first case that I've kind of did as a digital denture case. This was just a demo case. It's not for a particular patient. These are VITA demo models. I understand this particular resin is not a dental resin. This is something I came up with myself because I wanted to get the colors just right and everything else. But you can see that maybe the resins are not there yet to be like this aesthetically, but you can see that it ends up being a very good result.
It's beautiful.
I mean, I wouldn't mind delivering this case to a patient, because I know this has the wear resistance.
Yeah.
This has the aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I hear over and over again, and you've mentioned it today, is the predictability of digital and the predictable results. You know, I often say it's not a Monday morning setup case or a Friday afternoon setup. You know, it's just before a long weekend. Artificial intelligence that's in this digital mind that we're using, the software, sets up the teeth so they are in the best possible position for that patient. So that's the beauty of it. We can only look at the articulator like this, turn it over, open it up so many times. We're not able to do it that precise that the machine does it for us. So that is the beauty of digital and digital dentures. We can't even reproduce that ourselves. We can think that we're doing the best setup ever, but the computer will do it better.
From the standpoint of occlusion, I tend to agree with you, but the computer still doesn't take into consideration aesthetics. At least it doesn't do it yet.
Yeah, that's true.
So what I like is that conjunction of the technician and the software,
Sure.
because I look at it as a tool. So it's a great instrument in my toolbox to utilize. So it gives me the proposal, gives me great occlusion, but I can move things and I can change things. And here's the great part. This is what I wanted to show you. It's a good thing you just reminded me of this. I can take a 2D picture of a patient, of an existing denture that I scanned in, and I can overlay the setup that I have. Yeah, the occlusion might be great, but if I don't like something aesthetically, I can move it up and down, back and forth, and I can match it up to the picture or a scan. I don't deal with scans at this point, but a scan, and you can get it just dialed in just great.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I really like, but it's not a plug and play kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just, you need to be understanding, it took us a while to learn the skills that we have with our hands.
Mhm.
And it's going to take you a little bit to learn it here, but we're always learning, we're always moving ahead, we're always utilizing new things. So
Right.
that's why I think it's very important to, you don't need to dive in head first, but little things like, get a scanner, start scanning in your models.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe start making a custom tray here and there. You don't even have to have 3Shape to make a custom tray. You can do it in Mesh Mixer. You can do duplicate dentures in Mesh Mixer. You can buy a printer nowadays for $500.
Yeah,
Your resin's probably going to cost more than that printer.
it's true.
And if you're printing models, because you don't need dental resin to print models, these black models that you're seeing, that resin's like $20 a bottle.
Okay. Yeah, doesn't touch the patient, so why not?
No, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. So you can do a lot more nowadays
Mhm.
with a lot less money than you
Yeah.
could do 5 years ago.
That's very true. Yeah.
So
Yep.
my end kind of statement, I know we're running out of time, is that digital is a great tool. There's no need to be scared of it,
Mhm.
but also, don't think it's like this.
Right.
Make sure you put in the time, make sure you put in the work, and the results are going to speak for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Yeah, I agree with you, Eugene. That is the common comments that I get from customers out there. They're still a little bit, there's some anxiety with going digital, and because they almost have to like use the force, right? They have to believe in that new tool that they have, the software and the printer and all that. And we're all such control freaks, I can say that because I am, and I know a lot of, yeah, it's hard
We
because
are. That's
you
how it
control
is. Yeah.
everything. So it's really a point where if we can embrace it and we can understand what the software can and can't do, and that we still can put our fingerprint on it, but we get that, you talked about predictability and the data storage, which is so important. And it's easy to store things. We don't have those model boxes anymore. And the flexibility and the creativity that is available to us now, it's actually a very exciting time to be a denturist or a dental technician, a dental professional. It's really an exciting time. So I just wanted to say we have the few people on. I'm going to, if I can unmute everyone. Dylan, you can ask questions. I know Lorenza is on there. I can, here, Dylan, hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
Good. Do you have any questions for Eugene today?
No, I just wanted to say, like, awesome, like the creativity with the workflow and the snap on things. I had never seen that before, so that was nice to see, and just kind of having some of those options where you can kind of throw more appointments into one, right? Like the try-in and the pin tracer, just so yeah, you don't have to
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
print
kind
10
of
different
takes
things.
it takes that maybe a little bit of a PPS system approach to things. And that file for the Gothic arch tracer that I created, it's absolutely free. I can send it to you guys, and if you want, it's just a Dropbox link, and feel free to share with anybody. And I haven't uploaded it. There's a website out there. It's called thingiverse.com.
Yeah.
There's quite a few files on there that I've created already. Some for articulator tables for Stratus and stuff like that. And I'm thinking I'm just going to add that to that list, so anybody anywhere around the world can download that file. You can adjust it any shape or form you want, and just kind of enjoy the ride.
Cool.
I started kind of the opposite. I got the just a Photon S 3D printer to start. So yeah, just practicing printing and working with the software like Mesh Mixer and stuff like that.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes it is a mess mixer. Yeah.
Yes, it
There are
is.
days like that too, as well. Well, when I got my scanner, the only reason I got my scanner before the printer, because I don't think Photon was out yet.
Okay.
And my options were like Formlabs, and everything was like so overly complicated because not a lot of people are doing it yet.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was really expensive, either DLP printers and everything else. So yeah, I think getting a Photon, because I have a Photon as well. That was the first printer I got. Now I have 2 Sonics and a Photon, and I think I'm going to be getting another one. Just don't tell my wife. This is just between us, right? This is not going anywhere. Nobody else is going to see this, right?
No.
But yeah, you can get some really decent things done. And like I was saying, with a $200 printer and $20 resin, printing models till the cows come home.
That's true. That's actually a great point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Nice. So with that, just wanted to say thank you, Eugene, for joining the show today on Keeping It Real. And thank you everyone else for coming on board and listening and investing in your digital future. And we learned how to incorporate digital in our dental lab. And also from a denturist perspective, there were some really interesting and applicable options available. And yeah, just kind of demystifying digital a little bit more every time you hear about somebody having a success, kind of gives us a little bit more courage to move forward and more ideas and just things to think about, and helps us think a little bit more outside of the box. So thank you everyone for joining, and I will reach out to you if I've emailed you or you've emailed me that you wanted that link. I'll do that as well. So I'll take care of you. And Eugene, thanks again, and have a safe and happy Halloween, everybody. Remember that we are on daylight savings time, so we're going to be moving it back, unless you're from Saskatchewan, of course, and then you're going to stay the same. And yes, safe and happy holidays, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.